I have a big $ right over my shoulder because the worst thing you can possibly do as a no-code entrepreneur is build an app, but then not know how to sell it. So today we're going to talk about how to sell your app effectively when you're in your early stages and you don't yet have an audience and you don't yet have a marketing budget. And we're actually going to dig into a sales message that I received from someone else that was not good. And we're going to talk about why that was and how to make your sales outreach better. Now stick around until the end because we're also going to talk about how sales practices that work for larger scale apps will not work for your app when you are approaching your first launch. And this is such critical information you need to understand. My name is Kristen. I'm the co-founder of Coaching No Code Apps, and this channel is all about helping non-technical entrepreneurs build and launch custom apps so they can start their app-based businesses or grow their existing businesses all without coding. And if this video brings you value, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel so you can get more content just like it every single week. So the other day I got a sales message from someone on Facebook for something new they are offering, and Facebook can be a really great place to do user outreach for your app, but there's a right and a wrong way to do it. And this applies to Facebook or anywhere else you might be doing your user outreach. But I want to talk about this one message that I received specifically because it's a really good contrasting example from what we teach our own clients to do and what we want you to do as well. And so I'm going to read a part of this message just so you can get an idea of what it said. So this person said, "Hey, Kristen, how are you? Maybe you knew this from seeing my Facebook or Instagram, but maybe not. I'm super excited to be an independent consultant for a wine company. The wine that I market is free from pesticides, chemicals, and other gross stuff that you don't want in your body or in your wine. It's made with no added sugar and no added sulfites, and most importantly, it's delicious. So keep an eye out for more information, yada, yada, yada." So I won't name names or companies specifically, but that was the gist of the message. Now, this might not sound all that weird or bad to you. Heck, maybe you've even sent a message like this before. To be honest, I probably have as well. Essentially, what this person is doing is reaching out to every single one of their contacts on Facebook, which could be in the thousands, and saying, "Hey, this is what I do and this is what I'm selling." But I can tell you, I didn't even finish reading through that entire message before I clicked away because it had nothing to do with how I would benefit from it. And that is the key you have to keep in mind when selling your app. If you're talking about yourself or your app, and you're not talking about the person and their problems that they're dealing with as it relates to your app, then 99% of the time, they're not going to listen to what you're saying. So with our own clients in our Build to Scale program, we teach them in the early stages when they're launching their pilot apps to focus on conversations versus sales pitches. Because when you're having a conversation with someone, it's a two-way conversation. You're not talking at them, you're talking with them. And that can make a massive difference with your user outreach. I mean, the truth is, I like wine. And if that person had reached out to me and said something like, "Hey, Kristen, I am helping people find recommendations for good wine. Is that something that you would like help with too?" Then I probably would have at least responded. Number one, because it wouldn't have felt like such a blatant sales message that had nothing to do with me. And number two, because again, I like wine, and so maybe I would be interested in getting recommendations. But, and this is really important, at the very least, I would have responded and I would not have just clicked away from the message. And that is critical when you're doing your early user outreach or even your later sales, because when you can get a response, it means that you have resonated in some way. And that is like a toe in the door. Okay, not necessarily to a conversion. You might not turn that person into a user for your app, but you're going to learn something from them. So if you're doing your outreach and you're starting conversations, you're going to be talking with a lot of people who never become your users. But if you're talking with them, and those are the key words there, then you're getting information from them. So if I had responded to this person and said, hey, no, I'm not actually looking for recommendations right now, but thanks for reaching out, she could have responded and asked me a question about why I wasn't looking for recommendations. She could have said something like, oh, are you all set? Or are you just not looking for them right now? Or do you just maybe not want to pay for them? Or, what are you doing to find your wine? I mean, the type of information she could have gotten from me would have been endless, right? Because you're having a conversation. And realistically, people like to talk about their struggles and their problems and their pain points. And even if they're not going to become one of your users, if you can learn more about those, then you can better identify the right users for yourself. You can better identify messaging that is going to convert. You can better start to understand your users' traits, their demographics, their likes, their dislikes. You can start to form your avatar, which is the person who you are selling to, right? A description of your ideal user. And having that information can skyrocket your conversions. Okay, but I want to back up for a minute because that's all good and well, but you might be thinking right now, well, having conversations with dozens or hundreds or thousands of people maybe just isn't something you have the capacity for. And it's not very scalable. And if you're thinking that, you would be very right. But there's a reframe I want you to make. And it's that when you're launching the first version of your app, your pilot app, you should not be operating like an app that is bringing in a 7-figure revenue annually, or even a 6-figure revenue annually, or even any revenue. The things those apps and companies are doing can be great and they can work really well, but chances are they're not going to work for you in the stage that you're in right now. And the truth is, when you're launching your pilot app, you are going to have to do things that are unscalable. And that's okay, because when you're launching the first version of your app, what you're really looking for is product validation. You're still in a validation stage. You are not in a high growth stage. You are not in a scale stage. You're in a validation stage. And one of the things you have to validate is your messaging, your marketing, your sales. And so by having conversations with people, no, it's not scalable, but you're not in a scale stage yet. First, you have to learn what works. Once you find what works, then you can make it repeatable, which then will allow you to scale it. But if you don't find what works first, then you'll never get to that scale stage anyways. So just like you're building your minimum viable product, your pilot app, and you are creating a baseline solution to try to solve a problem and validate that that product works to solve users' problems, right? You are also needing to create a baseline for your messaging so that you can figure out what resonates and what actually does convert people so that you can then scale that up. So these things happen in the same way. So we're going to hit on 2 specific tactics that you might need to follow. You're going to fall into one of the 2. So number 1, you have not launched the first version of your app yet. If that's you, then no matter where you are with your development, you need to start having conversations right now, literally today. Now, don't worry. I'm not saying you need to start sending out sales messages right now. That would be counterintuitive to everything we've just talked about. So don't let that put pressure on you because you don't have a finished product yet and you're not ready to bring users on board. That's okay. You're just talking to people. Start reaching out to people and ask them if they're trying to solve the problem that you are solving. Because if you have these conversations, you can better understand your target market. You can better understand the type of product your target market needs. And whenever that product is ready, then you already have people who you've built a connection with, and you can come back to them and say, hey, look, I have this solution and I want to help you solve your problem. There's nothing salesy about that. No, it's not scalable, but it's going to help you learn and it's going to help you get that first set of pilot users so you can get the validation you need to then move into the scale stage. Now, on the other hand, if you have already launched your app and maybe you're really struggling with your user outreach, or maybe you just don't really know where to go from here, well, start having conversations anyways. This doesn't change. You really just need to start talking about your app and connecting with people. But as you do that, you're going to learn the messaging that works, and you're going to be able to create more automated outreach where you can speak to one-to-many versus one-to-one. You can start an email newsletter. You can go on podcasts. You can be written up in articles. You can do a million different things, but you have to learn what works first, because, let's say you take your sales message onto a YouTube channel where the person who is interviewing you has 1 million followers. Well, if you start talking about your app in a way that just doesn't resonate with people, then think about the wasted opportunity that would be. Now, if you get an opportunity like that, take it and then figure it out as you go. But seriously, it would be wasted opportunity. So figure out what works so that you can scale it up after that. So look, if you have an app, but you can't convert users onto it, then everything you built was kind of for nothing. And so a lot of people focus on their development, and we talk a lot about that because it's obviously important. But if you don't focus on this other side of things, then all of that development will be wasted. Now, as you move forward, the thing to keep in mind is that you have to be creating messaging, marketing. You have to have the conversations that are about the right product, because this also won't work if you are creating the wrong product for your users, or maybe you're launching just the wrong feature set, right? It has to be the right product in order for it to sell. And so in order to make sure you have that correct first version, I want you to head to coachingnocodeapps.com/perfect pilot. I'll link it in the description below. It's going to help you strategically take your full app idea and narrow that down into the different versions you should build and launch at different times. Now, this goes hand in hand with that messaging and that marketing, right? You have to get both of these right. And they can be really complicated, but they don't need to be. I want you to simplify them. So if you head to coachingnocodeapps.com/perfect-pilot, it's going to help you make sure you're building and launching the right version. And when you have that information, even if that first version is not completed yet, you can start talking to people about it, or you can start talking about their problems and know that you have the right solution coming to them. And that can set you up for a really great pilot launch. We'd love for you to click the like button below. It helps us get these videos out to more people who we can help with their apps too. So click the like button below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.